Welcome to True You Ministries with pastoral counselor Stacy Echeverria. Stacy is a licensed pastoral counselor whose own journey has taught her the importance of having a safe place to discuss the harder issues of life. We're grateful that you've joined us for this week's broadcast. You can learn more about Stacy and her heartfelt desire to help people much like yourself who may be at a place of pain and confusion by calling her at 626-461-3344. That's 626-461-3344. Or feel free to email her at info@trueyouministries.com. And welcome to another episode of True You Ministries. And speaking of effective communication, it's always good to communicate with your mic on. So, Stacy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Todd. How are you?
I'm always good, and I'm excited for part 2 of this effective communication episode. We learned so much in the first episode and a lot of takeaways, so I recommend anybody that missed part 1 to go back to trueyouministries.com and watch the part 1 episode of effective communications. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get right into it today because there's still a lot more to cover. Yes, and you're going to start with telling us what are the 5 different types of communication styles.
Right. So the first one is assertive communication. And what that means is it's a person that is confident in their convictions, but they make sure that they don't belittle or steamroll others in the conversation. They use I statements. This communication style is the most effective, whether you're in a business setting or even in relationships. You're able to express what you're needing in a way that is respectful and using I statements where you're not blaming others, for what's going on, but you take responsibility for what you're feeling. So for example, I felt hurt when this happened. That's assertive. A different way of communicating that would be, I felt hurt when you did this. Now that other person's going to shut down and not listen, or they'll get defensive. So it's just taking responsibility for how you feel about something without blaming someone else.
Okay.
That's a really great way to communicate. It's challenging, especially in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's got to probably take some confidence too.
Absolutely. And you know what? It takes practice.
Oh.
It takes a lot of practice. Some people don't feel comfortable with it.
Okay.
They just don't. You know? And I'm like, well, this will get you a better result.
Oh,
actually.
Yeah.
So another communication style is the aggressive communication style. So this style can be hostile, threatening, and it comes from a place of wanting to win at all costs. We talked a little bit about that in the previous episode, and that is when we're having a disagreement, we need to go into it with both people coming out of it whole, both of them winning. They've both been heard. They've been able to communicate. This aggressive communication style is, I'm coming out on top and I don't care what happens to anybody else. You'll really lose a lot of friends and relationships that way. Another style is a passive communication style. So this is known as the submissive communication style or the people pleaser type, right? That people using this style are conflict avoidant. So they'll be like, okay, sure, I'll go ahead and do that. Yeah, not a problem, when it really is, because they just don't want to rock the boat, if you will. Right?
Yeah.
And those people get taken advantage of.
It's the opposite of assertive.
Exactly. And then there's the passive aggressive communication style. So it's a combination of the two. So this style combines aspects of both the passive and the aggressive communication styles. So the passive exists on the surface. Oh yeah, sure. But underneath, right, there's an aggression that tends to simmer. Right. And so it comes out being, sarcastic or patronizing, or they might start rumors or they might be gossipy. Right. That has a whole mess of issues with that, again, assertive is the way to go. And then the last one is the manipulative communication style. So this style uses cunning and deceit and influence to control the outcome of the conversation and the actions of the people around them. I knew someone like that in my family of origin, and I could always tell. I always knew when they were lying. I always knew because I knew
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Right. And so I could never believe anything that came out of their mouths. Right. And it was always a way to get what they needed. Right. So that manipulation. So,
Mm.
of the five, the one to really aim for and to emulate is that assertive communication style.
Yeah.
And you have to grow in that confidence in being able to communicate in that way.
Yeah. Now, in these different styles, do people usually, with their personality or who they are, do they usually only use like one of these styles if that's their personality, or is
It,
somebody
it,
using
it,
all of them?
it can depend on the relationship that they're in too.
Mm.
Right. So they can communicate differently depending on who they're talking with.
Yeah.
Right. If they are speaking with someone that is more passive, then they may end up using that aggressive style.
Yeah.
Or that manipulative style, because then it gives them the upper hand. If it's an authority figure, maybe not so much. It might be more of that, passive style, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Family of origin. If you look at family of origin and the different roles that people have in the family of origin, that will determine, their communication style as well. But here's the thing: our communication styles are learned, but we can unlearn them and change and learn better ways of communicating. That's all
Yeah.
I want to say about that.
Okay. Yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
most definitely.
For those just tuning in, this is True You Ministries with Stacy Echeverria. Give her a call at 626-461-3344. She does a free 20-minute consultation. She deals with a lot of issues, and she's really good at networking. So if she can't help you, she can guide you towards somebody who can. And also, we are doing a Q&A episode coming up, so it's a great time to get any of your questions answered. Any questions that we've touched on or topics we've touched on or haven't touched on, please email info@trueyouministries.com, and Stacy will answer your questions. So I'm curious, when a client comes into your office or you're talking to them on the phone,
Mhm.
and one of their issues is communications, how do you find out their communication style? If maybe they're talking to you maybe in a passive style
Mhm.
because you're, the counselor. So how do you determine, is it
Yeah.
something they have to do themselves?
No, I can pretty much figure it out when I'm in sessions with them and how they're communicating, and I will challenge them, not in a mean way, but I'll challenge them to really express what they're feeling and what's going on with them. And how I do that is I tell them, and I have to remind them in my counseling sessions, look, this is a safe place. And so whatever is going on with you, it's all right to share it. I want to hear it. And if there's anything that you need to share about the way that I am counseling, or if you would like to have something different, I need to know that as well so that I can best serve you. So I also lead by example.
Okay.
That's one of the ways that they get to learn how to be assertive in the way that they communicate, is by leading by example. It's so I and also within sessions too, when I have clients that are a little bit more passive in the way that they communicate, and they're wanting to learn how to communicate assertively, but they don't even know how to go about doing that. And I'll say to them, well, what's a situation where you felt that it would have served you well to have communicated assertively? And they'll tell me about it, and I'll say, what if we role play?
Mm.
Okay, how would you communicate what you wanted to say differently using that more assertive communication style, incorporating the I statements? And so we'll role play. So I never want to send a client out to go, confront someone that needs to be confronted without first getting them to a place where they feel comfortable enough, where they know how to communicate
Yeah.
assertively. So role playing is a really great way. And sometimes they might feel uncomfortable and might think it's really silly. And I'm like, no, no, no. This is a good place to do this because it's safe and
Yeah.
nothing's going to happen to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, with somebody who's shy,
Yeah.
and they've been shy their whole life,
Mhm.
is it practical to think that, oh, they can change their, or, is that something they could do, really change their communication styles?
Yeah, it is if they want to.
Okay.
And so one of the things that I help my clients with is project into the future what their life would look like if they continue doing the same thing that they're doing that is creating, discomfort in their lives. What will your life look like 5 years from now?
Yeah.
What will it look like 10 years from now? Right? It's not going to get better. But if you make and the changes are subtle, they're
Yeah.
not drastic, and it's
Hmm.
over time. And so what would your life look like in 5 years by making these changes?
Yeah.
Right. So it's projecting into the future either a hopeful situation or a hopeless situation.
Yeah.
And
That's
which one do
powerful.
right? And which one do they want?
Yeah.
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 And it really comes down to, Todd, like in one of my earlier shows was the false belief systems.
Hmm.
So false beliefs really drive this. They really do.
Yeah.
And so, so that's why a lot of the work that I do is around that, and then helping them first of all get rooted into the truth, and then all right, what do you believe will happen if you change the way that you communicate? And they'll tell me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that could be one outcome, right? What could another outcome be? Right. And help them see what it could be and help them understand that whatever the outcome, they're not responsible for it.
Yeah.
Because if they're being respectful and the other person is choosing to react, that's on them.
Yeah.
They can't control the outcome. They can only control what comes out of their mouths and the way that they're delivering the message.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know I would say a lot of us need to focus and try to be more of assertive communicator, which you say is the healthiest and the best
Mhm,
form of communication. And
mhm,
I guarantee you that a majority of us aren't. And
mhm,
I think there's a lot of people, and we admire people with that confidence. When you see
mhm.
someone that's just not afraid to speak what's on their mind, we
Right,
respect that. And so
right.
it's interesting that sometimes we're shy and we're kind of reserved about that, but then in the same sense we look at somebody and admire them
Mhm.
for being able to speak what's on their mind.
Right, right.
So
And I wasn't always an assertive communicator.
yeah.
So I learned how to do that. I was a shy kid
Mm,
and didn't say anything to rock the boat. And as I got healthier, I realized, I can't be a doormat for anyone. I need to be
yeah.
able to communicate what my needs are, what I am wanting. And really, that assertive communication style also tells other people, too, what your boundaries are.
Yeah.
That might be another show on boundaries because
I think that, yeah, I think that'd
that's
be a good
really,
one.
that's really, really important is to
Yeah.
have those healthy boundaries in place too. You cannot have healthy boundaries if you don't communicate them, and you need to be able to.
Yes.
Yeah, it can be learned. My family of origin, like I said, people communicated in a very angry way, and then I learned how to be more effective in the way that I communicate by simply taking responsibility for what I was feeling, knowing that no one has the power to make me feel the way that I do. It's a
Yes.
choice that I'm making.
Yeah.
And so, but I can also express, the pain or the hurt in a way that doesn't make the other person feel horrible. But hey, this is what's going on for me.
Yeah.
And if you're in an authentic relationship, they're not going to want to do that again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as we get older, kind of when we're younger, communication isn't something that's really in our heads, maybe when we're reaching into our 20s and we build these relationships that we really care about, and then we see either the way that person's communicating or the way that we are communicating isn't
Right.
effective and it's not
Right.
working. And so then that's kind of when you see,
Yeah.
okay, there's some issues that we need to address here. And
Yeah.
some people either address them or they don't. And then I
Right.
like what you said about looking into the future.
Mhm.
Because if you just continue this way down, because it's hard to stop and think about that. If you're
Mhm.
just living the way you're living and you've always lived that way,
Right.
well, but if you're not happy with how things are in your life right now,
right?
You got to think about changing things. So
Absolutely. No one can do it for you. You've got to do it yourself.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So how can one improve their communication?
Right. So the first step would be becoming a better listener.
Hmm.
Okay? As a listener, we must receive and observe the information. Right? And we need to be able to be in a place of being objective too. Like I said, we receive information through our pain filters. So if there's something that we don't understand, we think we've heard it. And so now there's that reflective communication. Okay, this is what I heard you say. Is this what you meant? Oh, no, that's not what I meant. Okay, well, what did you mean by that? So then we are able to have dialogue around it, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I like
Uh,
that.
it's reflective listening. Okay, well, I heard you say this. Is this what you meant by it? And that allows for the other person to provide further clarification.
Okay.
Okay. Another way to improve our communication is being a better speaker. So, as the speaker, we are responsible for introducing and sharing information. So, this can be verbal or nonverbal, right? We talked about body language and all of that. So, that means we need to get really clear in our heads what we want to have transmitted through our mouths. Right. So
Right.
I when I worked in the entertainment industry, I read this really great book. It was called On Directing. And so there's this director who visualizes in their head what they want the end product to look like and was able to achieve it. But if we don't have any idea in our heads what we want to speak, we may end up saying some things we later regret. So being intentional, being thoughtful about what we're wanting to communicate. And also, if you are on the receiving end, how would you receive what you're wanting to say? Right?
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
will maybe help us stop and go, oh, I may need to say that in a different way so that it lands well, so that it's received well. So that's another way. The other way that we can improve is together we must process that information being imparted and received. And again, that's that whole reflective listening
Okay.
piece. We stay in the moment, whether good or bad, while examining our thoughts, our actions, and words toward the person who is speaking. Again, what is the pain that I am feeling, right? Examining that, not speaking out of that, not communicating out of that. Then practice that active listening by being present, attentive, and focused. So that reflective listening is a great way to reassure the speaker that you're engaged and interested, in what they have to say. For example, I heard you say that I don't make eye contact with you when you're speaking. It feels like I'm being dismissive and you don't feel connected. Is that true? Right?
Yeah.
Because when eye contact is a big deal. When
Yeah.
I see people with their eyes all over the place, I'm thinking to myself, are they even here? Are they in the present moment? Are they even hearing anything that I'm
It's
saying?
like they're thinking, what am I going to have for lunch? You're trying to you spill your heart out to them.
I know. So another great way to improve communication is to use the I statements, which provides both individuals, a level of compassion and reassurance that there is accountability for their part in the conflict or the problem. There's some more. I've got two more. So
Okay.
ask open-ended statements or be curious, which allows for both people to express their feelings while giving an opportunity to clarify facts and stay on topic. And then the last one is validate feelings, which provides transparency and honesty in the relationship. So this will eliminate either person from shutting down or feeling unheard. So focus on the feelings and not the behaviors. So for example, what I heard you say was that you felt taken for granted for doing the chores around the house after I left the dishes in the sink. Is that right? So these feelings will evoke change, right? So it means, that attentive, it's like, seeing what's going on around you, taking that, to heart.
Yeah.
Okay. Or, sometimes some people will mutter under their breath because they're upset about something. And so if we're being attentive, we'll say, hey, is everything okay? And they might say, no. And you could say, well, tell me what's going on. Well, you might not like hearing it. No, I really want to know what's going on. How can we resolve whatever it is that's happening here?
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
That takes work.
I was going to say, yeah,
And
a lot
people
of
just want,
practice.
and a lot of practice. And it's just like, I really don't want to enter into that because it may not be good. Well,
Yeah.
let me say this. It will be bad and it will get worse if you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that, so these are ways that we can improve our communication.
I'm sure everybody out there within 1 second, if you ask them, is there a conversation you had recently where you wish you would have said it differently? I bet you with a drop of a dime, people could list off probably 100 conversations. I wish I wouldn't have said this, or I wish I wouldn't have said it that way, or I wish I would have said it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up. So this is what I say to that. You can still go back and say what you want to say. You
oh,
can
I like
still
that.
go back and say, I'm so sorry I said this. I really wanted to say this instead.
Wow. Yeah.
That's
That's
huge.
powerful.
It
Yeah.
really is. And that, when you said the things that you didn't want to say, or you didn't say the things that you wanted to say, that could be an entry point for wounding to come in, for pain to be experienced.
Yeah.
But by going back and saying, you know what, I really didn't handle this well. I wish I would have said this, or I wish I hadn't said this.
Yeah.
That then allows for healing to happen and trust to be reestablished again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so powerful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Don't.
as you were saying that, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, what I'm saying is don't miss out on the opportunity to make it right.
Yeah. And I just wonder how many people have had some kind of conflict or conversation or something where it's gone to a boiling point. They said these things and then they just, I'm never going to talk to that person again. And they haven't. And that just is a wound with a scab that'll never heal. And so just you saying that, you go, you know what, those conversations that you think you screwed up on or whatever, you can go back.
Yeah.
You can go back and make it right.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing too is that other person may not want to enter into relationship with you again, but that's okay. At least you did your part to go back and attempt to make it all right, to make it, to redo that. So we can't control what other people decide that they want to do or not do, but we're responsible for making it right in the way that we can.
Wow. Wow, what a powerful two-parter episode on effective communication. I love it. Really, a lot of takeaways. So just want to remind the listeners, if they missed any part of this show or you missed episode 1 on effective communication, you can go to trueyouministries.com and watch past episodes. If you're dealing with any issues, please reach out to Stacy. And she's so good at what she does, and she's is on fire for Christ, and it's such a great motivator and also a great networker. So if she can't help you, she can guide you towards somebody who can. So please reach out to Stacy at 626-461-3344 or email Stacy info@trueyouministries.com. She also does a free 20-minute consultation, so please take advantage of that. Also, coming up very soon, we're going to be doing a Q&A episode. So we're really looking forward to your questions. So any questions you have on a topic that we've already touched on or a topic we haven't even touched on at all. So send those questions to info@trueyouministries.com. And Stacy's really looking forward to that Q&A episode that we're going to be. I'm looking forward to it too. I might even slip in some of my questions. So
sounds good.
Before we leave, I know you like to end the episodes with a call to salvation. What would you like to say to a listener out there that's listening right now that doesn't know Christ, as maybe did know Christ, but has drifted apart? What would you like to say to that person right now?
Yeah, you're not alone. you're really not alone in this world. It may seem like that at times. You're not out there, trying to figure it out on your own. There is a God that loves you. There is a God that cares for you, and He's got a call on your life. And there's a plan and a purpose for you as well. You may not think there is, but there is. And so to not give up hope, because our true hope, healing, and freedom is in Jesus Christ. And what I wanted to leave everyone with as far as this effective communication, just a couple of scriptures, a quote that I really like. So good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity. And then these two scriptures, Proverbs 15:1, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And then Colossians 4:6, let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. And if you think about that, the Lord always responds to us in a way that is loving and kind and compassionate. And if you have not ever experienced that, today is the day to say yes to Him and experience, all the goodness that He has to offer.
Yes. Love it. Great way to end the show. And we hope that this motivates you to take the first step to lasting change. Stay tuned or come back for the next episode when we touch on another very good topic and a lot of takeaways, as always, with your pastoral counselors. Thank you so much, Stacy, and everyone out there listening and watching. God bless. You've been listening to True You Ministries with pastoral counselor Stacy Echeverria. Stacy is a licensed pastoral counselor whose own journey has taught her the importance of having a safe place to discuss the harder issues of life. You can learn more about Stacy and her heartfelt desire to help people, much like yourself, who may be at a place of pain and confusion by calling her at 626-461-3344. That's 626-461-3344. Or feel free to email her at info@trueyouministries.com. That email once again is info@trueyouministries.com. Thank you for tuning into today's show, and we'll see you next week at the same time. And may God richly bless you.